said you would do it. He said it. So why didn't you just... Okay, 2 options. Option 1, do the thing. Option 2, you just... I was thinking out loud.
You were arguing with yourself. You lost.
That is not... I do that sometimes. Everyone does that, right?
70 to 80% of people talk to themselves regularly.
The other 20% either don't notice they're doing it or they're lying.
Talking to yourself is one of the oldest, most studied psychological behaviors in existence, and yet most people treat it like a dirty secret. Today, we find out why and what your inner voice is actually doing when you think no one is listening.
Mine was really loud just now.
Most of the important ones are. Stay until Act 5.
That one will change how you talk to yourself for the rest of your life.
Act 1. Everybody's doing it, nobody's admitting it. Studies estimate that between 70 and 86% of adults engage in some form of self-talk daily, muttering while doing tasks, rehearsing conversations, arguing through decisions, giving themselves a running commentary. Psychologists call it inner speech, and it is not a quirk. It is a cognitive function. Your brain uses language to organize thought. Inner speech is how the mind structures experience, plans ahead, and processes emotion.
Okay, but that makes it sound very official. Mine is more like, why? Hoody, why?
The reason people feel embarrassed about it is purely social. Somewhere along the way, talking to yourself became associated with being unstable or lonely. None of that is supported by science. In fact, the people most likely to engage in rich inner speech tend to be among the most emotionally self-aware.
So the people walking down the street talking to themselves
Are probably just working something out. Though I would still cross the street if the conversation sounds like it's going badly.
Okay, but what kind of self-talk are we actually talking about? Because mine ranges from grocery lists to full courtroom drama.
That is Act 2. And yes, there are types.
Act 2. The 3 voices. Which one is running your life? Psychologists divide self-talk into 3 primary types. The first is instructional self-talk, the running commentary while doing tasks, narrating steps, talking yourself through a new skill, checking items off a mental list. Research shows this measurably improves performance on complex tasks. It slows you down just enough to stay precise.
That one I actually use, mostly for gaming. Okay, Hoody, rotate left, grab the item, don't panic.
The second type is motivational self-talk, the internal coach. You can do this, just one more, keep going. Studies in sports psychology show that even a single phrase, consciously repeated, can reduce anxiety and shift the body's stress response before a high-pressure task. The third type is critical self-talk, the voice that replays mistakes, predicts failure, narrates your worst fears in first person. It evolved as a threat detection system, but for many people it runs constantly, without an off switch, and it is the loudest of the 3 by a wide margin.
Mine is definitely the third one. Full-time broadcaster.
For most overthinkers, it is. And here is what almost no one tells you. That voice is not your enemy. It is a misfiring protection system. Act 3 explains what it is actually protecting you from.
Act 3. Who talks to themselves most? And what that really means. Research consistently shows that certain groups engage in significantly higher levels of self-talk. Introverts process internally before responding. They use inner speech to think through experiences before sharing them. Highly sensitive people use it to manage the sheer volume of what they register. People with ADHD often speak out loud as a regulating tool because spoken language helps executive function stay on track when internal focus slips.
That last one explains literally every group project I've ever been in.
And people described as gifted, intense, or too much as children frequently developed a rich inner monologue as a substitute for a world that didn't quite fit. If you grew up being told you overthink or that you're too much, there is a high chance your inner voice became your most consistent companion. Not because something went wrong, because it was the one place that actually kept up with you.
That landed a little too accurately.
It usually does with this audience. Act 4 is where it gets more complicated. because the same voice that protects you can also become the thing you need protect from.
Act 4. When the inner voice turns against you. There's a line between healthy self-talk and what psychologists call maladaptive rumination. Healthy self-talk processes an experience and moves on. Rumination replays it. It loops. It asks, why did I say that? Without ever arriving at an answer. It reruns conversations that already happened, rewriting endings that no longer exist.
Okay, yeah, that one usually kicks in for me at 11 p.m.
Studies link chronic rumination to elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep, reduced working memory, and significantly higher rates of anxiety and depression. The critical voice stops being a protection system and becomes a loop that cannot exit. The distinction matters. Processing a problem to solve it is functional. Replaying a problem to punish yourself for having it is not. The critical voice sounds like honesty. It sounds like realism, but self-awareness has an endpoint. Rumination does not.
How do you tell the difference?
One question. Is this thought moving me towards something or just making me feel worse about where I am? If it has been repeating for more than 10 minutes, that is not insight. That is the loop. Act 5 has the exit.
Act 5. How to use your inner voice like a tool. In 2014, psychologist Ethan Kross published research on a technique called distanced self-talk. Instead of speaking to yourself in first person, I am so bad at this, I always mess things up, you switch to third person. You use your own name, Hoody. What is actually going on here? What would you tell a friend in this situation?
That sounds ridiculous. I'm not calling myself by my name.
The results were striking. Third-person self-talk reduced emotional reactivity, improved self-regulation under stress, and decreased rumination. Without therapy or extended practice, the shift in pronoun creates psychological distance. You move from inside the experience to slightly outside it, close enough to understand it, far enough to think clearly.
So I just call myself Hoody. Out loud.
Especially when the loop starts. You will feel slightly ridiculous. That is fine. Ridiculous and functional is far better than comfortable and stuck.
I've been talking to myself my whole life, and the whole time I was doing it wrong.
Not wrong, just untrained. There is a difference, and the last act is the one nobody expects. Act 6. The voice you should actually be listening to. Your inner voice is not random noise. Research in embodied cognition suggests that inner speech often carries signal, pattern recognition, emotional data, accumulated experience, arriving before the logical mind has finished processing. What people call intuition is frequently the inner voice completing a calculation faster than conscious thought.
So when my gut says this is a bad idea, that's not just me being dramatic?
Most people have been trained to distrust that voice, to dismiss it as irrational or too emotional, particularly people who were told they were too sensitive, too intense, too much. But people who maintain a clear, functional relationship with their inner voice consistently show better decision-making and stronger long-term outcomes. The goal is not to silence the voice. It is to become someone who knows when to listen, when to question, and when to gently tell it that it has said enough for today.
What if the voice has been trying to tell me something for years and I just kept turning the volume down?
It is still there, waiting, patiently, as inner voices tend to do.
Huh. I think my inner voice has been running the show for years, and I never even knew it had the remote.
Most people don't, until they start listening differently.
That's kind of terrifying.
Which of the three voices is loudest for you right now? The instructional, the motivational, or the critical one? Write it below. You might be surprised how many people are having the exact same conversation.